Most men walk through life blind to the game being played around them. They chase, they beg, they sacrifice everything for love that vanishes the moment they think they've won it. But 2 centuries ago, a German philosopher named Arthur Schopenhauer tore away the veil and exposed truths so raw, so unforgiving, that most men still refuse to face them today. What you're about to discover isn't just philosophy, it's psychological warfare disguised as wisdom. These aren't comfortable truths designed to make you feel better about your failures. This is the brutal blueprint of human nature that separates the men who control their destiny from those who remain prisoners of their own delusions. By the end of this, you'll understand exactly why your relationships have failed, why your devotion was met with indifference, why the harder you tried, the faster she walked away, and most importantly, how to never let it happen again. But here's your warning. Once you see what Schopenhauer saw, you can't unsee it. Once you understand the real rules of attraction, you'll never be able to play the fool again. This knowledge comes with a price, and that price is the death of your romantic illusions. Are you ready to face the truth? Let's begin. Arthur Schopenhauer didn't believe in fairy tales. While other philosophers wrote about love as some divine connection between souls, Schopenhauer saw it for what it actually is: nature's most sophisticated trap, a biological program so powerful, so consuming, that it convinces grown men to destroy themselves for a feeling that was never real to begin with. Here's the first truth that will shatter everything you thought you knew about love. When you feel that electric attraction, that obsessive desire, that absolute conviction that she's the one, your brain isn't connecting with her soul, it's calculating. Your subconscious mind is processing fertility markers, genetic compatibility, survival advantages, and reproductive potential at lightning speed. That overwhelming feeling you call love, it's your DNA hijacking your consciousness to ensure its survival. Nothing more, nothing less. Think about this for a moment. How many men have you watched completely lose themselves for a woman who later discarded them without a second thought? How many marriages have you seen crumble once the initial passion faded? How many times have you witnessed a man sacrifice his dreams, his friends, his very identity, only to be left with nothing but regret? This isn't coincidence, it's design. Nature created this system to be temporary, intense, and ultimately disposable. The moment it serves its biological purpose, the chemicals fade, the illusion breaks, and you're left wondering how you ever thought it was real. Schopenhauer wrote that love is the ultimate goal of almost all human effort, more important than anything else in life. But he didn't mean that romantically. He meant it as a warning. He saw love as the great deception, the chemical high that fades the moment it accomplishes what nature intended. This brings us to the second devastating truth about female nature that Schopenhauer exposed. Women don't choose men based on fairness, loyalty, or even genuine affection. They follow an ancient selection program hardwired into their biology, designed to seek status, security, and genetic superiority. Your devotion means nothing if you can't provide these fundamental requirements. Your character becomes irrelevant if you lack the markers of evolutionary success. This isn't cruelty, it's survival programming that has operated unchanged for thousands of years. Look at the evidence around you. Dating apps where 80% of women compete for the top 20% of men. Divorce courts where years of commitment are rewarded with financial destruction. Historical records of kings who died for mistresses who betrayed them without hesitation. The pattern never changes because the biology never changes. Schopenhauer observed that women are rarely guided by reason. They operate through instinct and emotion, following impulses that bypass logical thought entirely. This isn't an insult, it's an evolutionary advantage. In a world where physical strength didn't guarantee survival, emotional intelligence became the ultimate currency. But here's where most men make their fatal mistake. They believe love is mutual. They think if they sacrifice enough, care enough, prove their worth sufficiently, they'll be rewarded with loyalty and affection. They operate under the assumption that relationships are fair exchanges between equals. Schopenhauer warned against this delusion. He understood that to be loved, one must not just be good, but strategically intelligent. Women don't fall for nice, they fall for strength. Not just physical strength, but social dominance, financial security, and psychological power. This is why the good guy finishes last. Not because he's unworthy, but because he fundamentally misunderstands the game. He thinks love is earned through service, through sacrifice, through proving his dedication. But women are instinctively drawn to men who don't need to serve, who don't need to prove anything. The man who makes himself indispensable becomes dispensable. The man who chases becomes prey. The man who begs for love ensures he'll never receive it. Have you ever noticed how women lose interest once they've secured a man? How the dynamic shifts, how the chase reverses. Schopenhauer called this the tragedy of possession. The thrill isn't in having, it's in conquering. Once the conquest is complete, biology moves on to the next challenge. This explains why men who cling too tightly, who make her the center of their universe, inevitably watch her walk away. It's not that she's evil or cruel, she's following programming that rewards her for seeking the highest value mate available. The moment you demonstrate that you're not that mate, you become a liability to her genetic success. But here's the crucial insight that separates Schopenhauer's wisdom from bitter misogyny. This isn't women's fault, it's nature's design. And the man who understands this stops blaming and starts strategizing. He stops taking female behavior personally and starts seeing it as predictable biological programming. The woman who seems to love you today will abandon you tomorrow if a higher status option appears. Not because she's heartless, but because she's hardwired to optimize her reproductive success. The woman who claims to want a sensitive, caring partner will still choose the dominant, emotionally unavailable man when push comes to shove. This creates a paradox that destroys most men. They're told to be vulnerable while women chase dominance. They're shamed for wanting traditional masculinity while strong alphas still dominate every arena. They're worked to exhaustion, providing in a system that rewards their sacrifice with contempt. Schopenhauer saw this trap centuries before modern dating apps and social media amplified it into a cultural crisis. He understood that women are systematically trained to be incapable of genuine love, as men understand it. Female love is conditional, tied to utility, dependent on what you can provide rather than who you are. A man isn't cherished for his essence, but for his resources. The moment he stops providing value, the love evaporates. This isn't cynicism. It's survival programming that has worked for millennia. Women are hardwired to seek the best possible mate, and if a man stagnates, she will resent him. If he falls behind, she will replace him. Modern society doesn't just accept this, it celebrates it. Women are encouraged to trade up, to never settle, to always seek better options. Meanwhile, men are shamed for recognizing these patterns, labeled as bitter or misogynistic, for simply observing female behavior. But observation isn't hatred. Understanding isn't resentment. Schopenhauer's insights weren't designed to make you angry at women. They were designed to wake you up to reality so you could finally start playing the game correctly. The man who accepts these truths stops being a victim and becomes a strategist. He stops expecting fairness and starts creating advantage. He stops begging for loyalty and starts inspiring it through strength. This is just the beginning. Because the next truth is even darker, even more devastating to everything you believed about relationships. It explains why modern men are being systematically outplayed in every arena and how to completely flip the script. What comes next will show you exactly how women wield power invisibly, how they control without appearing to control, and how to recognize the manipulation before it destroys you. Stay with me, because this next revelation is where most men realize they've been living a lie. their entire lives. The third devastating truth Schopenhauer uncovered will destroy your final illusions about female nature. Women don't compete like men. They don't challenge you directly. They don't flex their power where you can see it. Their greatest weapon is invisible, instinctive, and devastatingly effective: emotional manipulation. While men fight with fists or logic, women wage war through perception. They don't conquer territories. They reshape reality itself. When a man wants something, he demands it. When a woman wants something, she makes you believe it was your idea all along. Schopenhauer observed this with surgical precision. Women live more in the present moment than men, which gives them a terrifying advantage. They read micro-expressions, tone shifts, and social dynamics with supernatural accuracy. A man thinks he's having a conversation. A woman is conducting an interrogation. Modern men believe they're in control of their relationships. They're catastrophically wrong. From the first date to the divorce papers, women guide every interaction through subtle tests that most men fail without realizing the game even started. The compliance test, how quickly you rearrange your schedule for her demands. The frame test, whether you stand your ground or cave to her emotions. The investment test. If you chase more than she does, you've already lost. Schopenhauer warned that women are instinctively crafty and have an innate talent for deception. This isn't evil, it's evolutionary programming. In a world where physical strength didn't guarantee survival, emotional intelligence became the ultimate currency. The woman who couldn't navigate male psychology didn't pass on her genes. Here's where modern men walk blindly into the trap. They confuse a woman's attention for genuine interest. They mistake her presence for investment. They believe her words instead of watching her actions. But Schopenhauer revealed the dark reality. Women are most drawn to men who don't need them. The moment you make a woman, your purpose is the moment she loses respect for you. This explains everything. Why nice guys finish last. Why marriages crumble after men sacrifice their ambitions. Why women pursue emotionally unavailable men with relentless determination. It's not that women want to be treated poorly. They're biologically wired to seek men of higher value. And nothing destroys perceived value faster than neediness, desperation, or making her the center of your universe. Every interaction with a woman contains an unspoken power struggle. Most men lose before they realize the battle began. She cries to avoid accountability. She withholds affection to train compliance. She flirts with others to test your confidence. She creates drama to measure your strength. Schopenhauer called this the tyranny of the weak. Women leverage their perceived vulnerability to control stronger adversaries. A man who falls for it becomes a slave. A man who recognizes it becomes unstoppable. But here's the liberation hidden within this brutal truth. Once you understand that female nature isn't personal, it's biological, you stop taking it personally. You stop begging for loyalty and start inspiring it. You stop reacting to tests and start passing them. The final lesson Schopenhauer offered isn't about defeating women, it's about transcending the game entirely. The most dangerous lies aren't the ones women tell men, they're the ones men tell themselves. Modern men make one fatal error. They believe happiness comes from female validation. Schopenhauer saw through this illusion completely. The happiness we receive from ourselves is greater than that which we obtain from our surroundings. The men who thrive aren't those who conquer women, but those who conquer themselves. They develop a purpose so consuming, so intrinsically rewarding, that female attention becomes a pleasant bonus rather than a life or death necessity. History's most remarkable men weren't distracted by the chase. They were too busy building empires, creating art, advancing knowledge, conquering territories. Women came to them because they represented something greater than romantic fantasy. Here are the 3 pillars of unshakable masculinity that Schopenhauer identified. First, economic sovereignty. Money isn't just currency, it's freedom. The man who controls his finances controls his fate. Second, philosophical depth. Most men live on autopilot. The exceptional man cultivates a mind sharp enough to cut through societal lies. Third, physical mastery. The body isn't just a tool for attraction, it's the vessel of your will. Schopenhauer's revolutionary insight was this: the safest way of not being very miserable is not to expect to be very happy. This isn't pessimism, it's emotional armor. The modern man who stops begging for love, approval, or fairness suddenly finds these things come to him naturally. Why? Because he's removed himself from the desperate masses. He's become the prize instead of the pursuer. The battle between men and women isn't personal. It's biological theater playing out across millennia. The man who wakes up to this stops blaming and starts evolving. He doesn't resent female nature, he adapts to it. He builds a life so compelling that women must either meet his standards or watch from the sidelines. Schopenhauer's ultimate lesson cuts to the core of human existence. We forfeit 3/4 of ourselves to be like other people. The choice is yours. Continue chasing illusions that will never satisfy you, or step into your true power. The red pill isn't about hating women. It's about loving truth enough to rebuild yourself in its image. This is where your real life begins. Not in the fantasy of romantic love, but in the reality of masculine purpose. Most men will reject this knowledge. They'll call it bitter, cynical, or misogynistic because facing the truth requires them to abandon comforting lies. But the few who embrace these insights will find themselves operating on a level most men can't even comprehend. You now have the map. The question is, will you use it?